and sisters, these are hard times, and we therefore need to find different fora to review our situation, hoping that we may be able to find a way forward. What I will do this evening, this time, we have just finished Maghrib. I will share a few practical experiences that have been able to improve the socio-economic situation of some of our people in some of the countries. Then I will conclude by making some thoughts, sharing some thoughts on this topic and generally. Let me begin by highlighting the core principles of sustainable economics in Islam. One is the balance between profit and ethics. That's a core Islamic principle. And wealth is viewed as an amana, not just a possession. When Allah gives you great wealth, it's an amana for which you are going to account how you acquired it, how you spent it. Profit is encouraged, but must be aligned with morality and fairness. And the second principle is that of justice. Equity in distribution of resources is encouraged in Islam, and serving the common good and uplifting the vulnerable members of our society is part of the just and social welfare scheme of Islam. 3 is avoiding haram. You know its form. You can't say I will acquire money, it doesn't matter how I get it. And equally, there should be no exploitation, oppression, or excessive risk. And then as you do acquire whatever wealth, there is need to protect the environment, human dignity, and society. Those are core principles that underpin the quest for economic development and economic accumulation of wealth. So that's why Allah in the Quran, chapter 35, verses 7 to 9 says, quote, "And he has established the balance so that you may not transgress in the balance. So establish weight in justice and do not fall short in the balance." So that meaning that it's not only a balance in weighing or something, but even in your own life. That's why we're a nation of the middle course, the nation of moderation. So it's the balance, not extreme negative, extreme positive, somewhere in between. And we learn a few lessons from Islamic history, beginning with our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who established contracts based on fairness and ethical trade in Medina all the time he was there. Even before he became a prophet, he used to trade, and Khadija radiallahu anha entrusted her with business. But throughout that time, he was known as the one who speaks the truth. His fairness and justice was known long before he became a prophet. And during the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he introduced the public treasury, to ensure welfare and all citizens. At one point, everybody was able to get his or her needs met from either his own or her own resources or from the Baitul Mal. And that's great. Then we had the Zakah institutions, functioned as early forms of social security and eliminated poverty. And we have numerous examples of how Zakah was able to deal with poverty. Then there was work for endowments. These supported schools, hospitals, infrastructure, and the different sustainable models of community development based on Awqaf. This is one of the areas that historically even supported Muslim scholarship. The days when Islam was at its best, Awqaf was one of the sources of revenue that supported the Muslim scholars, the Muslim students, and society generally. Then the early Islamic markets promoted transparency, fairness, and prohibited fraud and monopoly or hoarding of goods. These are core lessons that we learn from our history and that we need to keep remembering and try to recreate in our own times. One of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is quoted to have said, "The truthful and trustworthy merchant will be with the prophets the truthful, and the martyrs. Who wouldn't want to be with the prophets on the day of judgment? To be such an honor. And if you are a merchant, this is one path. If you do it properly, this is one path. It is like seeing the sun. It's where you are that you see the sun. I don't have to come to USA in order to see the sun. I stay in Jeddah, I will see it. When I go to Uganda, I will see it. So in whatever business we are doing, in whatever undertaking we are doing, that's where we should try to seek Allah's pleasure and Jannah Firdaus. So if you're a businessman and you are doing business, it is within that context that you should be able to find many pathways for you to go to Jannah. So he forbade monopolies and hoarding of goods and encouraged fair wages and timely payment to the workers. The famous studies of paying before even the sweat dries. We all have heard about it. That's the timely payment of wages so that people can also go and do what pleases them with their earnings. The prevailing situation, however, that is hampering our development, we have a few situations that are challenging us. One is poverty and inequity. There is a widening gap between the rich and the poor, and millions lag behind. Two, we have debt and financial exclusion in many countries of the Muslim world. And many communities are locked out of fair credit systems, especially if you are looking for credit systems that do not have riba. And in some of our countries, the debt to GDP ratio exceeds 100%, meaning that it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to repay the loans. Three, we have resource mismanagement, overuse of land, water, and energy leading to long-term risks. So this is sometimes unplanned use of resources tends to limit our move forward. Four, over-reliance on export of raw materials, and then we import finished goods at 10 times, 20 times the price. We export our raw materials at giveaway prices, and this weakens our local industries and creates a perpetual vulnerability and dependence on the others. So these are some of the challenges that you'll find in most of our countries in the Muslim world. And now, out of the 44 LDCs, 22 of them are in the Muslim world, and the majority of these are in Africa. Then you have food insecurity. As a group, we are net food importers, although we have a significant portion of the land, arable land, and about 70% of our arable land is underutilized, is not utilized at all. So we have sufficient land to be able to become net food exporters. But as of now, we are net food importers, which creates a very serious challenge for us, especially when you have disruptions in the food supply chains, like we had in a few years back with the Ukraine conflict and other COVID-19 situations. Then all of a sudden we found ourselves unable to feed our children and to feed ourselves. Yet we have the resources sufficient to be able to feed ourselves and even export to others. Then we have youth unemployment. You have an increasing number of rising educated yet jobless youth. This risks of frustration and instability. We have young populations in the Muslim world. The median age in the Muslim world is about 23 years as compared to the global average of about 30.6. So that explains it. And in some of our countries, the median age is as low as 16, 16, 17. In Africa, the median age is 17, So meaning that we have this population dividend, a very big potential of labor, but we need to harness it and we need to take care of it properly. Otherwise, it turns from being an asset into a serious challenge to all of us. Then you have corruption and misgovernance, which erodes trust, wastes resources, and hinders just development. We have a lot of this in some of our countries or even institutions. Then we have climate change and environmental stress. These directly impact vulnerable populations, and we have to be able to create wealth in ways and means that actually support and protect our environment. Until life has been found on another planet, we have only Mother Earth to live on, and we better take care of it so that it can take care of us. Some solutions from the Islamic point of view, interest-free financing is one of the solutions. Risk-sharing models, mudaraba, musharaka, and zakah and waqf for social welfare, ethical and green investments, shukuk, Islamic bonds, and investment in human capital. These are a summary of our possible solutions. I will elaborate on a few of them as we move forward. I want to give a few examples of models that have worked and worked wonders. The first one is what we call the Akhwat Islamic Microfinance. This is based in Pakistan. It's a truly transformative model established in 2001 by Dr. Muhammad Amjad Saqib. I'm sure our moderator knows that model very well. This provides interest-free microfinance to the impoverished and underprivileged members of society. As we speak now, it operates in over 870 offices across 450 cities of Pakistan. And since 2001 to date, it has distributed loans to over 3.6 million families, totaling to over $1.14 billion, interest loans. And the amazing part about this model is that the repayment rate is 99.94. This is the highest in the world. You can't get it any better. And of this, 43% of the borrowers are females, supporting women-led enterprises. And indeed, its own genesis was from a woman who borrowed $50 from the man, and then later on, it expanded like that. So taking care of our sisters and especially the females who are single mothers, who are widows, is extremely critical if we are thinking about a society that should develop. And then they use mosques and churches as disbursement centers without any discrimination. This reduces costs and fosters community trust. And they build on the social enterprise of the individuals that receive the loans. So in the end, the impact of this model has been that some of the borrowers have become donors, turning exactly the same situation of people around. So a virtuous cycle of empowerment. They give microfinance for agriculture and livestock improvements, guaranteeing food security for the family, and they have Akhwat schools and colleges, over 300 schools, 4 colleges, over 45,000 students, 1,600 teachers, etc. All of this being supported by this model, providing education to the most vulnerable members of the society who otherwise would never have had a chance to have an education. And they had Akhwat relief activities during COVID-19 pandemic, in which they supplied hundreds of thousands of meals and financial support and to vulnerable communities, to people in prisons, people in hospitals. It's an amazing model, this one. Health services, they have Akhwat clinics for outpatients, and they also do a lot of medical camps, for cataracts, for other ailments. And it's built on voluntarism and solidarity. Most of the executive team workers volunteer, although of course sometimes they also have they have partnerships with the federal and provincial governments, and so sometimes the government meets the running costs of their activities. So this operates on a revolving fund model. You borrow, you pay back, and then the money goes to the next beneficiary. And it has worked successfully. So that is the summary of the Akhwat model. And these brothers are willing to share it with those who want it. We ran a workshop for them at the OIC headquarters a few years back, and many countries are now interested. So any country or any association that wants to learn from this model would be glad to connect them to this model, inshallah ta'ala. The second case study, I'll just go over it quickly, is in Malaysia. It's a global leader in Islamic finance, established Kuala Lumpur as the world's leading hub for Islamic finance, pioneered Sukuk for infrastructure projects, and over 60% of the global sukuk issuance originates from Malaysia as of now. This is again a successful model that you can study and see, and I'm sure the brothers from Malaysia would be more than glad to share their experiences. The third is Indonesia, social impact through Waqf. This is one of the amazing success stories of Waqf or Awqaf. They launched a cash Waqf-linked sukuk to channel charitable endowments into government development projects, funds used for building schools, hospitals, and affordable housing, demonstrates how faith-based finance can empower communities while ensuring financial sustainability. They have the famous Hajj Bank you have all heard about, where you save for your spiritual aspirations, and the money you save also is grown. They use it to grow. So it went from just a savings scheme to a bank. And this has helped a lot of people in Indonesia to perform Hajj. The other case is in the United Arab Emirates, the Green Sukuk for Sustainability. And this focuses on environmentally friendly projects like solar energy. And this shows that Islamic finance aligns with global climate change and SDGs. So it's not that Islamic finance focuses only on Muslims. No, it benefits all humanity. It's a model that can work for everybody. I'm going quickly through this because of shortage of time. We have Turkey participation in banking growth, promoted participation of Islamic banks alongside conventional banks, provides interest-free financing to SMEs and entrepreneurs, and government-backed institutions also support innovation and financial inclusion. This boosts domestic economic growth while maintaining Islamic principles. Again, this can be studied further for those who are interested. Now, in Uganda, we have worked on economic empowerment of Imam model. I'll just share a few examples that I've been involved in. One, in April 2022, we gave one Imam 8 goats, and this cost us just about $500. By August of the same year, he had 15 goats. By the end of 2 years last year, he had over 28 goats. So we got 8 goats back from him and gave it to the next Imam. And he remained with 20 goats, and now he's building his economy. What's more, he used the goat's droppings to improve his food production by using the goat droppings as organic manure, and also to improve the coffee production. So it had multiple benefits for him. And it has worked very well so far with that one. The other Imam, we gave a cow that cost about $600. And when it delivered that calf you see in the photo on the left, he started getting 15 liters per day. And what happened was the health of his own children improved because now they had milk. And because their health had improved, they could attend school better. And their academic performance also improved. And what surprised us more, we found out the wife eventually confessed that before they got the cow, she was planning to divorce because of poverty. And now that the cow was there, the family had stabilized. And this was just $600. Now the calf has grown. It was a male bull. It has grown. We are selling it this year, and we will buy a female and give it to the next Imam. So the photograph shows it was a bee project. We gave 20 beehives to one Imam that cost about the equivalent of 315. Now he is producing a lot of honey every month, and he's able to take care of his children and his family. And then he has given enough honey to be able to buy other beehives to go to the next Imam. This is a model that has worked for rural empowerment, or to empowerment of rural families. Of course, when you are in the urban areas, the model changes, but it can still be adapted to fit rural, urban, or peri-urban areas. And this is the conceptual framework of the integrated rural development model we have designed. It's basically goes, if you see the RF, that is rural family. If I give goats, if I decide to do goats, for example, if I have 1,000 families and I give them goats, each of them 10 goats, you know. Then at the end of about 2 years, they have a lot of goats. What do I do with them? You know, then I got phase 2 of the project. I get a group of youth, buy motorcycles for them on loan. They go and collect the goats and take them to the local market, you know, and others set up local butcheries, you know. And the local butcheries, along each local butchery selling meat, you can put another boy who is selling tea or coffee, you know, another one who is opening up a restaurant, so that along the butchery you have 3 other people who are benefiting. And in the process, you are creating a lot of jobs. But then if I reach a point where each imam or each rural family is able to give you at least sell 5 goats every month. So if I have 1,000 families, then I have 5,000 goats every month. What do I do with them? I open up a halal abattoir, you know. I open up a halal abattoir and process the meat into halal meat, you know, and then I can use it for the local market or export. And then if you have 5,000 goats every month, then you have 5,000 skins from the goats. What do you do with them? I set up another factory, a leather tannery factory, and begin to make shoes and handbags and belts and so on for the local market and also for export. But there's a lot of waste products in the abattoirs. What do you do with the local products? Turn it into organic manure and sell it back to the local farmers or sell it on the local market. It is a totally integrated system that would be very useful for the private sector and public sector as well. And what would this do? It would improve economic empowerment, food security, environmental protection, better health, and better education. You know, it's an integrated model. Again, we can share with all of you who may want to do this. But 80% of the people in our countries, some of our countries, live in the rural areas. And for the country to move forward, we have to focus on them and make sure that there is financial inclusion for them and that they have the resources and means and the technology they need to be able to improve production. And then you can go into value addition and other things, inshallah ta'ala. So I want to conclude, I think my time is almost up. I want to conclude by call to action. Our governments and institutions should create enabling policies and also provide resources for social projects. Our scholars should guide on modern issues and have think tanks. Knowledge is power. Our scholars cannot be just locked up in their lecture rooms and their laboratories. They need to get out of there and have solutions to real-world problems that our people are facing. Our businesses should prioritize ethical investments and give back to society. And our community should support our Awqaf and Zakah initiatives. And the youth, these are our most important natural resource. In any country, the most important natural resource is the children. We need to give them hope. We need to give them Islamic values, knowledge, skills, and resources they need to innovate, create their own income resources, and craft a future they deserve. If we don't take care of the youth, we are not taking care of our future, you know. And many of them want to do something. There's a survey we did in East Africa, and we found that 75% of the youth would prefer to create their own jobs, but they don't have the means, you know. So this is where Islamic microfinance comes in to support such initiatives. My concluding remarks, I want to say that Allah in His infinite wisdom and mercy blessed the Ummah with a lot of resources. He also sent to us the guidance on how to use the resources, conduct business, and how to deal with wealth through the Quran, the guidance in the Quran and Hadith of our Prophet ﷺ. Unfortunately, the gap between the haves and the have-nots is increasing. We need to hold fast onto the Islamic principles of dealing with wealth. Unfortunately, there are successful models we can learn from, and we can create others. We need models that can ensure financial inclusion of the youth and the vulnerable groups in our societies. And the paradox of the Ummah being so weak and suffering from so many ills amidst enormous natural resources and a big population and divine guidance on all aspects of life, I want to submit is a result of our deviation from the life's prescriptions enshrined in the Quran and Sunnah of our Prophet. The more we deviate from the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah, the more we shall continue to suffer. And the more we put this into practice, then we shall be able to do better. And we can do better, and we should do better. First, and most important, we need to learn and put in practice the true message of Islam, of unity, peace, and development. Second, we need to teach our children the true message of Islam, including moderation in everything they do. And third, we need to contribute to creating a better life and building a more peaceful world for ourselves and posterity. We have that, we owe that to ourselves. And we have the guidance from the Quran and Sunnah to be able to do that. We have the resources and the technologies, and we can do it if only we become better, we improve our own selves and improve our societies accordingly. Finally, we must never lose hope, no matter how dire the situation might be. Is it dire now? It has never been this bad. In Palestine, in Sudan, in Syria, everywhere you look, okay? It has never been this dire. But there is always hope, because those who lose hope lose the end game. And I want to use this quotation: a successful man is one who can lay a firm foundation using the bricks others have thrown at him. And that's what we exactly need to do. Lay a firm foundation for the future of the Ummah, the future of the world, in which the Muslims are part of the solution and not part of the problem, using the bricks others have thrown at us. But we must remember that problems cannot be solved by the same level of thinking that created them or allowed them to happen in the first place. We need a higher level of thinking to be able to get out of these problems. Failure is not an option, because failure is not falling down. Failure is refusing to get up. Yeah, we may be down, but we need to get up and move on. Because failure is not falling down, but refusing to get up. And you must refuse to fail to get up. And finally, I think Surah Al-Asr summarizes what we need to do, summarizes what we need to remember. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. That's real for me. That summarizes it so neatly, that once we recall that we shall remain in total loss until we believe in what? Tawheed, believe in ourselves, believe in the truth, believe in the future, believe in all the other good aspects of life, and then do righteous deeds, enjoin each other to do the truth, and then be patient. Work tirelessly, but persevere as well. The challenges, no matter what challenges we encounter, we should persevere and keep on. The elasticity of Islam will eventually prevail, inshallah.